So I don't think for a second that these four teams can make it to the college football playoff. Sorry, hate to break it to you. You're not going anywhere. Maybe you'll play in a New Year's Six bowl bid. But I do think that every one of these rosters, every one of these programs could create a chaos scenario for the CFP voters when it comes to Selection Sunday. If you're brand new here, welcome on into the channel. My name is Cole Thompson. I'm a radio show host based in Houston, and I talk college football daily. I talk NFL, MLB, NHL, NBA, but I love talking college football. And if this is the type of content you enjoy, this is the channel made for you. So hit the subscribe button down below. Tell your friends, your family, your sister, your brother, everybody about this channel. Because if we get to 1,000 subscribers by next Wednesday, I'll shave all this hair live on air. We do 3 live shows a week, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays. Make sure you subscribe and let's talk college football. By the way, mustache right here, Movember. Movember brings awareness to suicide in men, testicular cancer, and prostate cancer. If you would like to be a part of the solution, make sure that you hit the Movember link in my bio below or visit Movember.com. So I don't think for a second you can consider Michigan or Ohio State a chaos team, because as long as they continue to win and they do their job, they're in a good spot. I don't think you could consider Penn State a chaos team, because if Penn State beats Michigan this weekend, but say Michigan loses to Ohio State, done deal, it's over. Ohio State's going on, you're not. And if everything goes the way according to plan, where you have an undefeated Georgia, you have an undefeated Big Ten champ, you have an undefeated Florida State and an undefeated Washington, they're in the dance. It's a done deal. We don't need to go into too much detail. But I do think that these 4 teams absolutely could change the way and the course of how we view the college football playoff. Let's start off in the Pac-12. Oregon State. Oregon State has had some very lowly games. In fact, you can make an argument that up until 2 weeks ago, they probably would have been a dark horse to make the CFP. And while they should have been, because Jonathan Smith has created an identity, he has found a rhythm, he has found consistency on the offense, and they have an offensive line that's dope. It is awesome. There's no other way to say it. And Damian Martinez is a good running back, and the defense makes enough critical stops, but they found a way to lose to Arizona. Now, they can ruin the Pac-12's chances of getting 1 team in, if not 2 teams in, because you realize who they have to still play. They have a matchup against Washington in 2 weeks, and then they close out the year with the Civil War against Oregon. Now, just humor me and say that they win both those games. Well, basically, you're left with one option to make the CFP. Washington. Washington has to win the Pac-12 for you to get in, because you're not getting a 2-loss Oregon team in the CFP. It's just not happening. It will never happen in a 4-team playoff scenario when you have a bunch of other 1-loss teams. So if Oregon State finds a way to win both games, not only are they looking like a top 10 team in college football, who unfortunately slipped at the wrong time, they also are looking like a team that basically has ruined the last of a shot for the Pac-12 to be represented. They can create a lot of chaos, and they have the talent. I don't really care that they lost to Arizona. Arizona's good. Arizona's not a great team, but they're on the come up underneath Jedd Fisch. What you've seen from the quarterback play, whether it be Jaden DeLaura or Noah Fatia, whoever it may be, they've done a good job of finding their way through mistakes. But Oregon State's good, and Oregon State can hold its own with anybody in college football. You've seen it before. Last year, they finished with 10 wins. 10 wins is very plausible this year. If they run the table, Pac-12 is screwed, and they absolutely can. Next up, Louisville. Louisville has to continue to win. Even if they don't, they just have to make sure that they punch their ticket to Charlotte, because if they play against Florida State, you realize that they have a great rushing attack. And it's not just Jawar Jordan. They have another running back that last year spent his time in Madison, Wisconsin on the Badger staff, Isaac Gudero. He's playing well. He has had a phenomenal game this past weekend, over 143 rushing yards. This is a team that means business. And Jeff Brom has a quarterback that also understands what works and what doesn't. That's the beauty of the transfer portal. When you leave schools and you want to bring in somebody with you, you go ahead and you make some phone calls. Jack Plummer was with him at Purdue, and then he went to Cal, and then after Cal, he went right back to Louisville, and now he's leading this team to potentially an 11-win season, maybe even 12 wins. And if they win the ACC title, if they beat Florida State, and yes, they can. Florida State, as good as they are, you see a quarter where they just are dormant. They can't find rhythm. They can't find an identity. They can't put together compelling drives. If they take advantage of that, Florida State's not guaranteed anything, especially when you look at the strength of schedule for other opponents, when you look at the level of competition of who you played against. And yeah, you have 2 ranked wins. You also have a ranked loss. And it's going to be really interesting to see what happens to Duke and what happens to LSU. Because every single week that one of those teams loses, it lessens the strength of schedule for you. It doesn't lessen the fact that you got a ranked win. And we had this argument last year with TCU. Well, Oklahoma State isn't ranked anymore. They were when they played. It doesn't matter. But 2 ranked wins when you have other opponents that are finishing the job and handling business, yeah, they're going to say something about it. So I think that Louisville, without question, they run the show. They make it all the way to Charlotte. They beat Florida State. Florida State's praying that somebody else messes up. That's the only way you can put it. Next up, Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State's good. Oklahoma State just showed you that not only are they going to be able to win in Bedlam on the ground, they'll win through the air. How many people knew that Alan Bowman could put up a performance like that? Yeah, he didn't find the end zone. Okay, whatever. He did throw for 378 yards. And if you play Texas in Arlington, Will Howard just threw for 3 touchdowns. All you have to do is get inside the red zone. And Ollie Gordon's not going to allow you to go ahead and stop him from reaching the pylon. It's not happening. Ollie Gordon right now is on pace to finish with over 1,700 rushing yards this year, 20-plus rushing touchdowns. Not to mention, he also is an enforcer out of the backfield. He has over 278 receiving yards. They can play. And their defense has done a good job of forcing turnovers. Their defense has done a good job of making sure they get some 3-and-outs, and they stall offenses from doing anything. You watched it in Bedlam. All you got to do is run the show. You finish off the year 10-2, there's a shot. There is a legit shot. And I think Kansas has an argument, but Kansas right now does not control its own destiny because they lost to Oklahoma State. So both teams finished 10-2. Guess what? Oklahoma State gets the bid over Kansas. Not the point here. The point is that when you look at this Oklahoma State team, they just got to follow a similar formula to what happened when they played against Oklahoma. Just make sure that once you get in the red zone, you punch it in. And Ollie Gordon is a completely different running back than Trayshawn Ward. Alan Bowman is a completely different quarterback than what you have with Will Howard or Avery Johnson. Or you can even throw in a Donovan Smith, or you can throw in Wyoming, or you can throw in JT Daniels at Rice. But they've all given fits to Texas. You just allow the rushing attack to stay potent, whether it be on first down to set up a 2nd and 3, or on 3rd down to go ahead and convert, move the sticks, and give you a fresh set. That's a team that has an identity, it has a purpose, and it absolutely can pull off the upset against Texas. And you're not putting a 2-loss Texas team in there. It's different than TCU. TCU, undefeated during the regular season, got the nod. They're not going to be so lucky this year around. And lastly, Tennessee. It's crazy to think, but Tennessee still has an outside shot of being in this thing. Not the college football playoff, but the SEC championship. They need to win this Saturday. They have to beat Missouri. And they also have to hope, just hope, that Georgia loses. Because if Georgia loses, then what occurs is a winner-take-all for the SEC East. And if they beat Georgia in Neyland Stadium and somehow they beat Alabama, well, now we actually have to have the conversation of, do we put a 2-loss team in the college football playoff? And would Tennessee be viable for that? Especially if other opponents lose along the way. Like, say you have a 2-loss Oregon team win the Pac-12 and a 2-loss Tennessee team win the SEC. And say you have a 2-loss Louisville team win the ACC. One of those things happen. Well, now we have to consider a 2-loss team. And are we not going to say that the team that defeated not just Alabama in the SEC championship game, but also dismantled Georgia at home with a great rushing attack headlined by Jalen Wright, with a quarterback in Joe Milton who seems to at least be able to handle the job, and a defense that's getting better stops this year, isn't worthy of status of being a college football playoff team? I wouldn't say so. Tennessee knows how to run the football. And if one thing you can take away from this weekend when watching Georgia play against Ole Miss, if Ole Miss can get the ball rolling on the ground with Quinshon Judkins and Ulysses Bentley, what's going to happen is they're going to give a formula on what Tennessee needs to do to get the win. Now, Tennessee, again, they still have to be able to win this whole thing because Missouri, they no longer control their destiny. They are basically out of the running. But Tennessee isn't. And if Tennessee finds a way to secure 1, 2, 3 ranked wins at the end of the year, maybe the SEC is left out, or maybe we get a 2-loss team in there. But those are the 4 teams that I think you need to be paying attention to when it comes to sleepers, chaotic teams, whatever the hell you want to call them. I go Oregon State, Oklahoma State, Louisville, Tennessee. All 4 of them could create chaos, madness, mayhem, whatever word you want to use, insert vocab, adjective here. They could do it in the Pac-12. I mean, they could do it for the college football playoff. And I expect at least one of them to do so. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching that video. Don't hit the X button yet. Make sure you hit subscribe to keep up with all of our daily content found on Just Saying It and anything else that we post on this channel. Bye.